Shalom, brothers and sisters. Shalom, and giving honor and praise unto the Most High, the Creator, the Maker of heaven and earth. My name is Yeshaya Yisrael, of the tribe of Dan of the nation of Israel. In this particular presentation, brothers and sisters, being presented to you from Danitepublications on the channels More Yeshaya Hebrew Lessons, More Yeshaya Old Testament, and More Yeshaya History Lessons too. We hope and pray that everybody is well and will be better. We do not, brothers and sisters, profess to know everything, and we are open to constructive criticism. My telephone number, brothers and sisters, to reach me is 908 587 4841. That is again 908 587 4841. Hoping and praying, brothers and sisters, that everybody is well and will be better. We are going to, brothers and sisters, get into this presentation. And if you find it in your spirit to comment, like, share, we ask you to do so. Thank you for that. We understand that it may be an unusual time on a so-called Friday, brothers and sisters, at a particular time in the morning as this, but we want to, with the timing allotted, get this brought out to the people. Okay? Thank you for that. We ask you all to subscribe to the channel so when we go live with future presentations, you all will get the notification of such. Again, this is on the platforms More Yeshaya History Lessons 2, More Yeshaya Hebrew Lessons, and More Yeshaya Old Testament. Thank you for that. Let us pull up the PowerPoint and start therein. Thank you for your consideration and timing. The books on sale regarding Black History Month. About us. We give thanks to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We hope and pray that you all are well and will be better. This is presented to you all from Danitepublications. We are dedicated to help setting truth back in the earth. The purpose of this presentation is to let you all know that there is a book sale on the history books regarding Black History Month. Brothers and sisters, ever so often, a brother does do that, in which, using the time that people are attentive, in many cases, to hear about, quote, Black history, if we will, that we do present this out to the people. We know, as we will present, that you can't marginalize Black history just within a month. But we want to respectfully take advantage of such a matter in that particular case. So, brothers and sisters, without any further ado, let us continue in this particular matter. Thank you for that. While we know BHM, Black History Month, is not to be marginalized to just February, we want to take advantage of the fact that many are hearing more than before the matter of, quote, BH or Black history. Now, brothers and sisters, one of the things that we care to point out is this, and that is having an open mind. March is what they refer to in many cases as Women History Month. And correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's the middle of September to the middle of October, and which people refer to as Hispanic History Month. So while Black History Month is not a bad thing, we don't at the same token want to marginalize a particular matter in that particular case. That's something we want to emphasize on. While some might think it should be or can be marginalized for a month, that's where he or she is at. And while others try to sit there and state that it shouldn't exist whatsoever, we have to ask, what are you trying to not have brought out? Let's continue. Product overview. That is the logo of the website, Danitepublications, that you see there in that particular case. Point, Danitepublications started officially in 2015 when one was 35 years old. At that time, one was featured on different platforms like South Showtime and Debate Talk for You and Maccabees TV. Having, however, started my own channel in 2014, which is Mora Yeshaya Torah Lessons, I was focused on others' platforms until 2018 when I began to write independent Hebrew books. Now, for me, writing a book, I needed that quietness. So when I wrote the Hebrew book, Hebrews Easy Volume 1, which will be in the description for those who are interested for the link thereof, I was in Greensboro, North Carolina, and coming out of Brooklyn, New York, and going south and working on a project like that, one can begin to see why, no disrespect intended to New York, while I live in New York, live in Brooklyn, brothers and sisters, that quietness was definitely welcomed in that particular case. So, again, we ask you all to comment, like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for that. The first history book is Egypt Talking Writing, which was followed by Deuteronomy 28, History Untold to the Masses. This was followed by From Assyria to America, which has a part 2 to it. Finally, there is a book, Israelite History as it relates to the world. Now, brothers and sisters, I want to emphasize something in this particular case, if we will. All right. When we look at the first book being Egypt Talk and Writing, right, followed by Deuteronomy 28, History Untold to the Masses, followed by From Assyria to America, which has a part 2 to it. Finally, there's a book called Israelite History as it relates to the world. These 5 books is what we're talking about and we'll be showing. And brothers and sisters, these books are on sale. Instead of $20 or $30, it will be on sale until the end of February for $15, but you will have to get that online. All right. So that is to say, for 5 books, $15 each, brothers and sisters, you'll be paying, if you have Amazon Prime or so, less than $100 for what is normally over $100. All right. So that is the matter with the book sale concerning this. We do not profess to know everything, and we are open to constructive criticism. We can be reached, as you see the number across the screen, 908-587-4841. Thank you for that. Product benefits. The books are presented from a collegiate point of view, while at the same time not trying to lose the focus of the youth. While some of the words are, quote, harsh, what is deemed as profanity is not supported in the literature. The reader of the book is taken from where each book's point of view is from the beginning of the point to the resolution. One will be able to use the material found in the literature for school papers. Now, what do we mean when we say from a collegiate point of view? Some of the citations I use come from college references. By that, I mean the books that I had used from when I was in college. But at the same token, we don't want to, quote, lose the aspect of reaching out to the children to where people might feel it's over one's head and so forth and so on. When putting a book out, sometimes the publishers will ask you, what age range do you think your book is qualified for or should be for? I want to state that the books that we're talking about in history here is not, certainly the Deuteronomy 28, History Untold to the Masses, is not meant for a child, black or otherwise, under 10 years old. I would suggest, as you will see, the book Israelite History as it relates to the world for any child that's able to read from age 4 and up. All right. And that is because of some of the content that we talked about in history in that particular case. So just want that to be pointed out for reference purposes. I have had compliments on the book, and I have had people tell me about some of the things to make it better, make the cover better, make the font better, and so forth and so on. And I state that while having received compliments, I have received constructive criticism. Again, I can be reached at the number across the screen, 908-587-4841. Thank you for that, brothers and sisters. Our competition. While Danitepublications is not based on debate purposes, it is the goal of the company to help set truth back in the earth. Therefore, the layers of lies that have been presented are shattered. This is not to say that the company is not above reproach and that we are open to correction. It is, however, to say that careful and reliable information is what we present. We attempt to bring material that is not commonly known, thus the subtitle, History Untold to the Masses. Example is the fact that the Irish in the 17th century spoke of the captives they had were of the tribe of Judah. So, we are not combative, but rather objective, and we hope everyone is well and will be better. So, brothers and sisters, we ask you to comment, like, share, and subscribe, and let us continue in this particular case. Thank you for that. Product overview. This is the book here that I would not suggest for a child, black or otherwise, that is under 10 years old. As you can see, the cover is pretty, for the lack of a better term, raw, graphic, if you might say. The cover was made by Chief Naphtali Ben Dan of the congregation DCB. You can see them online, DCB channel, on Sabbath and other days. The book is over 300 pages and has 2 appendixes. The book covers matters of the not detailed translations in the English text. What do I mean by that? When I say the not detailed translations, some of the translations in Deuteronomy 28 are not translated as well as could be, such as the word destroy, the word perish, the word to be lost, abad in Hebrew, and so forth and so on. The word hashmad, about meaning to be destroyed, and what other better translations we can ascertain from the Hebrew. That is what I mean in that case when I say not detailed translations in the English text, as well as a glossary for Hebrew seekers. So in the book, as you go past chapter 3 and into chapter 4, I go over a list of translations, Hebrew vocabulary, that can be shown and used for edification purposes for those who are interested. There is a timeline in the book that is what I would say is second to none, in which is in chapter 6 of the book. I have found, being an author, that chapters 3 and chapter 6 of the books that I write seem to be where I put the most spirit in, where I put the most dedicated work in. I don't know how to explain it, but that just seems to be the case in that particular matter. All right, so let's continue in this. The authors cover the time, the Bible speaks of from Sumer to the fall of Persia and picks up where the Greco-Roman empires led to the hegemony of the Americans. What do I mean by that? When I say the authors covers, because yes, it is the work of one author, Vincent Hutchinson, I use that author name in giving honor to my father. But for those who do know, this book originally came out under my Hebrew name, Yeshaya Yisrael. So I'm saying that in spirit, reaching out to the people who may not even say that they are of the house of Israel. This book is dedicated with a name and giving honor to my dad, may he rest in peace, that people could be more familiar with, while at the same token, not, quote, for the lack of a better term, losing the Hebrew flavor, having originally been published by Yeshaya Yisrael, both being myself. All right, just want to point that out for reference purposes when I say the authors. All right, let's continue in this manner. Product overview. This is presented to you all. While it is named from Assyria to America, the content of the book starts in Egypt from America, then picks up where Assyria comes to power, while all along showing the influence of the nations on the Israelites. What do I mean by that? In that book right there, brothers and sisters, it gets into the matter and speaking upon what happened with the Israelites. Egypt to America, from Avaris to Alabama, from Ghana to Georgia, how to teach Deuteronomy 28, from Dahomey to Delaware. Those are some of the chapters in that particular book, being over 400 pages. Now, when I received, as I stated earlier, constructive criticism, it was in fact about this book here, that I took the constructive criticism and made the font, the typing of the book, bigger, because people said in the Deuteronomy book, which font has been changed since then, that the lettering wasn't big enough for people's eyes. So I wanted to sit there and state that yes, a brother, when reached out to and seeing the wisdom in it, does accept constructive criticism. While some have asked, what did the Israelites contribute to society? We admit the Israelites fell short of their intended creation, yet produced some of the best records we have to date, the scriptures. Do you know that the scriptures, brothers and sisters, is used by archaeologists and even psychologists, business people as well? For instance, the portion in the scriptures that says the borrower is servant to the lender. You find that in business citations. That comes out of the scriptures. Beat your swords into plowshares. So instead of using a sword, which is used in war, used in destruction, plowshares, which is used to sit there and cultivate the earth for food and vegetation. That comes out of the scriptures. I love you. That terminology, I love you, comes out of the scriptures. So, brothers and sisters, while we can see the records as genealogy of the table of nations in Genesis chapter 10, we want to definitely point out without any shadow of a doubt what we mean when we say produce some of the best records. All right, let's continue in this, man. Thank you for that. Product overview. This book was completed February 1st, 2021, in commemoration of BHM, Black History Month. Brothers and sisters, when I was writing this book, again, in a quiet setting, I was in a secluded area when I was just with my books, my sources, my citations, giving honor to the Most High, and just put this book together in this manner. I want to say something about this. This book that you're seeing right here, From Assyria to America, has chapters in it called From Ghana to Georgia, From Dahomey to Delaware, From Madagascar to Manhattan. Now, in this book here, From Assyria to America, Part 2, there was a chapter called From Angola to Arkansas. That chapter was intended to be in Part 1. But I realized once I began to sit there and put it through the KDP, no knock on them, I do use them, Kindle Direct Publishing and everything. I realized that there was a chapter that I even forgot to put in Part 1. So I put it in Part 2. All right, so just want that to be noted. The genre of the book is to bring out the history of the Israelites is definitely intertwined in the history of the world. The Israelite tribe of Dan is focused on in this book and where they migrated to. There is a citation in the Bible that says in Judges chapter 5, and Dan, why does he dwell in ships? Who were the Danian people that were part of the sea peoples? Where was Dan's location, brothers and sisters? Why does Judges chapter 5 speak about the tribe of Dan dwelling in ships? Who were the people that this book talks about, brothers and sisters, regarding the tribe of Dan and where they went to? And that it happens to be the tribe that a brother does claim. And why do I go into that in part? Because it appears, knowing the history of the tribe of Dan or Dan, if the records outside of the scriptures of Dan is true, such as saying that when the kingdom split between the northern and the southern kingdom, in many cases, the tribe of Dan left and set up a kingdom, which is in the area today called Ethiopia, then migrating west to form a kingdom that was called Danomi. Brothers and sisters, it seems to be with the tribe of Dan or Dan that, you know what, I'm going to leave the drama, the problems, and the negativity, and I'm going to go find peace. Not saying that all Danites were righteous, not saying that the tribe of Dan didn't do things that was incorrect, but at the same token, it appears to be the matter of, I'm not going to entertain the foolery. I'm going to sit there and seek peace. And that's for all the house of Israel, when you look at it at the end of the day. So just want to point that out for reference purposes. Also, there is a portion in this book that speaks on why the Egypt by ships that we see in Deuteronomy 28 is of the Atlantic slave trade. There is a chapter in there, brothers and sisters, that is called Mizraim does not mean Egypt. Now, for those familiar with the Hebrew, you might be very interested in that portion. All right. There too is a timeline of the captors of the Israelites. What do I mean? I speak in this book about the Asiento, brothers and sisters. That is what King Charles V of Spain, the grandchild of Isabella and Ferdinand of Spain, used. I speak about the Moors in this book and the ousting of the Moors in the 15th century and what happened by the 16th century when the Moors going into Mauritania in part winded up cooperating with Arabs and Spaniards in selling our people over to the Western Hemisphere. So these are things, whether it is for the happy or the sad, that we care to bring out regarding this particular case. Okay? Hopefully everybody is well and will be better. Let us continue. Again, this is on the channels Mordeh Yeshaya Hebrew Lessons, Mordeh Yeshaya History Lessons 2, and Mordeh Yeshaya Old Testament. Thank you. Product overview. This was the first book a brother wrote. The reason was because many were doing what they call coming for the Israelites. Due to the claims that the Exodus in the scriptures is a myth and the enslavement of the Israelites is not factual, it became incumbent to bring this material out. Now, in the Bible, Deuteronomy chapter 11 is where it says the nations know of what happened with the Israelites. So if the Torah in Deuteronomy 11 is saying that the nations, the world, if you will, knows of what the scriptures is talking about, then there should be evidence of such throughout the world before colonialism that Christianity came with, using both and mainly the New and Old Testament in that case. Were there records, brothers and sisters? Was there people speaking about the Israelites being enslaved? Coming from records that's not of the Israelites itself? Yes. And that's what this book talks about in this particular case. You might see brothers and sisters on the cover is different than the original cover, but the content is still the same. When me and my lady Sarai went into Egypt, I winded up when we came back having the cover updated, brothers and sisters. So you can see her picture there on the bottom left and my picture in the bottom right. That's when we were both inside the museum in Egypt in this particular case. All right. So that's what we want to point out in that case. Sources are cited from different references. Many of the citations come from encyclopedias and journals that speak of the authenticity of the biblical account of the Exodus. So, what a brother did, giving honor to the Most High, is take it from outside of the, for the lack of a better term, comfort zone by just using the Bible as a source, brothers and sisters, and going into the matter of using college references, Encyclopedia Britannicas, Encyclopedia X, Y, and Z, journals, history magazines, and things of that kind of nature to sit there and bring out what people are talking about for reference purposes. Thank you for that, brothers and sisters. Product overview. Now, this is a book for those who've been listening to the presentation that I would suggest for any person, black, white, or otherwise, and for any child that can read from age 4 years old and up. I want to emphasize what I'm talking about. I will not suggest, brothers and sisters, though people have bought, not to be business all the time, people bought this book more than any other history book. Of all the 5 history books we're talking about, this is, as a salesperson, the bestseller. Nonetheless, I will emphasize, please do not have your little nieces and nephews that are under 10 years old to read this book. I would suggest, brothers and sisters, this book here, which is all online, for those interested in Israelite history as it relates to the world. This book, having less than 10 chapters and more than 50 sources, was put together to show the connection of the Israelites in the world after the fall of the Assyrian Empire, not copying the style of the book From Assyria to America. This book has citations from kings to slaves that speak on the reality of the Israelites. Now, why do I say even for a child that's under 10 years old who can read, regardless of race, regarding this? Is because when I put this together, giving honor to the Most High, I used biblical citations in this particular case. And brothers and sisters, shalom to my brother, Israel Young Lion. You stated, I may not agree with everything, but thank you for your efforts. May the Most High reward you. May the Most High reward you too, my brother, my friend. I'm open to constructive criticism. I do not know what you may not agree with. We're definitely open to constructive criticism, and we can build upon that. My number, as you may see across the screen, is 908 587 4841. Thank you for that. Now, looking at this book right here, I talked about the Maccabees, which leads into the history of what happened with Hanukkah. I talk, brothers and sisters, in here about, as you can see, there are more than 50 sources. There's a lot of pictures in here that may be attractive to the children, so forth and so on, with citations on what we're talking about. Any child that may know another language, this may be interesting in this particular case. So between those two books, which I must state the quote bestseller, Deuteronomy 28, History Untold to the Masses, again, do not give that to a child under 10 years old to read. I would suggest this book for anyone, regardless of age or race, for this particular matter, because it's not, no disrespect to self, as harsh. Even if you look at the cover, it's not as harsh as the cover in the content of that other book. So that's something, even as the author of these books, I want to emphasize in this case. The cover was made by the wife of a brother who I have respect for. They are online by the name Bayis Mazan. All right. So again, these are things, brothers and sisters, we do care to bring out for reference purposes. Thank you for that, family. Why a book sale? February 2024 is the month that many Black people are attentive to hear about Black history. We, the Israelites, care to bring what information we have to the masses by way of literature. When the Romans came into Jerusalem, or so, one of the things they wanted to make sure they did was destroy all the writings that they could. Even when you watch the Hollywood movie Amistad, the people who were the captors were trying to make sure the records of the enslavement were destroyed. Susan Everett, in her book called History of Slavery, which you can get online, pointed out that in 1891, the Portuguese destroyed their records. When you find people like, he rest in peace, Malcolm X, William E.B. Du Bois, as well as Booker T. Washington, when you find people in the past who give you different numbers of the people that were brought from Western Africa to the Americas, what are we saying? One of them stated 40,000. One of them stated 100 million. And another one stated a number. So while we, Black people, respect Malcolm, may he rest in peace, W.E.B. Du Bois, and Booker T. Washington, they gave different numbers about the captives that were brought over from Western Africa to the Americas. Why? In part, because many records were destroyed. But of the records we do have, we definitely don't want that to be destroyed. So when we speak upon the matter of bringing things out through literature, these are things we talked about. Did you know when you read it in the Maccabees, in the Apocrypha, it says they who were found with the testament were killed? Now, at that time, brothers and sisters, they only had what is today called the Old Testament. The Greeks came, according to the Apocrypha, and was killing people who had, quote, the Testament. So what testament did the Israelites have that they were being killed for? Today called the Tanakh, today called the so-called Old Testament. So brothers and sisters, these are things that we want to point out and bring things out in literature, brothers and sisters, because our writings, we intend to outlive us. We don't want to, brothers and sisters, have it to where when we leave the scene, our writings dissipate as well. Pass it on. We don't want to have the future feel that they got a black in a mirror, light incense or whatever, which is nothing wrong with lighting incense, don't get me wrong, and start to call up our spirits 80, 180, 280 years from now when we may be deceased. And I say when we may be deceased because who doesn't want to live a long time, brothers and sisters, in perfect and good health. But at the same token, we don't want our descendants to feel they got to do a seance because we didn't leave things for them. These are things we care to bring out for reference purposes. All right? The brother wrote, I love the so-called Old Testament. It always resonated with me better than the New Testament. Okay, I want to state that for those who do know that I am what you call an Old Testament brother, Tanakh-based brother. And while Danitepublications is not based upon debate purposes, I have no qualms and no problems speaking upon the stance that one does have in that particular case. So hopefully everybody is well and will be better. We intend that our writings will outlive our current lives and thus help the future generations. History has been presented as boring to some and unnecessary to study to others. Yet, we want to point out that not only is history a necessity, it is also fun, not funny, at times sad, but fun to know. So, these are things, brothers and sisters, we care to point out. A joke that some of the Israelites, when I was a child in the congregation, stated, mind you, we were children, and this is no disrespect to the anointed King Solomon, is that he fell down the steps and he told the scribes to not record it. What we meant by that as a joke, not that falling down the steps is funny, is that writings can be controlled. The pen is mightier than a sword. So when you have the scriptures, as the brother pointed out, the so-called Old Testament or the Tanakh, if you will, you find one of the greatest king in there sadly committing murder and adultery. It doesn't give you a romanticism. He committed no sin and everything was perfect. No, it was not like that. You find one of the greatest priests in Israel, Aaron. He's the one who built the golden calf. No disrespect intended. We find, brothers and sisters, that one of the greatest people in the scriptures who was hesitant to speak, the prophet Moses, wound up being one of the best speakers and mainly the only speaker in Deuteronomy. So what are we pointing out? That sometimes, as the so-called Old Testament points out, we don't think that we have a good purpose. If I go before Pharaoh, then if the people don't hear me, then what? You're going to go, you're going to speak to Pharaoh, you're going to bring my people out. That's the charge in that particular case. From the Adon Haaretz in Joshua 5, called the Lord of the earth, being the Most High. And when the Most High has given you a purpose and a mission, like Jonah in the said Old Testament, you're going to have to fulfill it. You can't evade the responsibility the Most High is giving you, brothers and sisters, and think everything will still be well. Because then you wind up, no disrespect intended, like Jonah, being brought back to still have to do the mission that you was intended to do. So, and that's one thing to point out. On the other end, the Most High speaks about the free will offering and the free giving of the heart. If you're presenting something and you saying giving honor and praise unto the Most High, you better make sure, though no one is perfect, that you can be told, like Job, going there, look at my servant. Don't be out there doing wicked things when people are supporting you, brothers and sisters. And don't get frustrated in business when you think who should support what you're about and what you want to promote to help the people don't support you. Don't let that frustrate you, brothers and sisters, because it's still from your heart that you're offering it to the Most High, that it truly is about. How my family came into this way of life, find it to be interesting. The person who was used to bring my family into this way of life in the 1980s is a man that went to school with my mother. And this brings us to another point. He, at the time, was in his 30s. My mother was in her 30s. And he never, speaking as a man, disrespected her, for those who know where I'm going. Being a single woman, or, pardon the term, yo, shorty, let me holler at you kind of thing. She's not looking for a man in that case. She's not looking to be romanced in that case. She's not looking when she comes out to the congregation, brothers and sisters, for quote an ish for a man in her life, if you will. Why do I say that? Because too many brothers in Israel have dropped the ball online and offline with how they treated sisters. The way my teachers were, they were not doing that to the sisters. My mother being one of their sisters, if you will. So I'll go raw and speaking upon that in that particular case to show that the ball has been dropped, but we got to pick it back up. All right. So let's look, brothers and sisters. History, I know I read it, has been presented as boring to some and unnecessary to study to others. Everyone may not be a historian, but everybody should know some history. You understand? And be teachable, brothers and sisters. Thank you. Yeshaya Yisrael. 908-587-4841. Email yyisrael22@yahoo.com. Website www.danitepublications.com. All right, for those who are interested in that particular case. We hoping and praying, brothers and sisters, that everybody is well and will be better. For those who are interested, please, we ask you to reach out, brothers and sisters, in this particular manner and so forth. So they're a little different in that particular case. We want to highlight the number. I can be reached I can be reached, brothers and sisters, through WhatsApp, text message, and regular calling, if we will, for edification purposes. All right? That again is 908-587-4841. I prefer to not, though I have in descriptions, ask for donations. I'd rather you buy the book for two reasons, as opposed to just, even though I see the Cash App across the screen, I'm not trying to sit there and sound hypocritical, but I'd rather one brother or sister buy a book. So for your hard-earned money that we go to the job for or that we work at home for, brothers and sisters, that you see something in your hand for the money that you have given. And if it may not be for you, I do suggest maybe you get it for someone else who can appreciate it. For the people who have supported, I appreciate that. To the people who subscribe, I appreciate that. And again, I am open to constructive criticism, giving honor and praise unto the Most High, the Creator, the Maker of heaven and earth. Have a good day, brothers and sisters, and a better weekend. Shalom. Most High bless us. Thank you for that.